Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Manufacturing Alliance podcast. As always, I'm your host, Tony DeMakis, and this is presented by Alliance Specialties and Alliance Laser Sales, your home for, all your mold maintenance needs, all your mold finishing needs. We like to say that we are mold makers that don't build molds. We do all the additional stuff that mold makers need, right? We do the polishing, the laser welding, laser engraving, hot runner repair, preventative mold maintenance, all those things that you don't have time to do as a mold maker, or you don't have the people or the resources, right? It's harder and harder to find people. And so we need to find the right partnerships to be able to do those things as we need. And so that's the service side of our business. The other side of our business is we are building and selling laser welding and laser engraving equipment here in the United States. Being American made matters for so many reasons, but some of the big ones are we want to service you, right? We want to make sure that if something is happening and you have questions, you have issues, you're not having to call some guy overseas with a clipboard or a binder trying to figure out your problem. You are getting the actual manufacturers of the equipment talking to you. We build everything here in our Prairie Grove facility. It is our laser development center, and we are here to serve you. The other reason that you may want to use Alliance for your machine purchases is because we are continuously trying to give back to organizations and things that matter to us. And one of those is the idea of human trafficking and the evil disgustingness of it. And so, we saw this movie, Sound of Freedom, and it broke my heart. And I thought, well, now what? How do I do something about this? Right? Like, I'm not going to go fight in Honduras or Malaysia or wherever that is. So how do I help out in that case? And so what we decided is that we were going to partner with the Tim Tebow Foundation to end human trafficking the best way that we know how. And that is to continue to sell our American-made products made by people that are not living in slave wages or bad conditions. And a proceed of all those purchases are going to go to the Tim Tebow Foundation to make sure that we can do our part to stamp out human trafficking. So if you're looking for a laser welder, you're looking for a laser engraver, give us a call. Send us an email, tony@alliancelasersales.com. We will do a demo in your facility. We want to show you what we offer and why it's different than the competition. And we want to do that with you. One of the other people that we know and love is Brian Warren and Jake Warren. Jake is still battling pediatric cancer. If you follow Brian online on LinkedIn, he is continuously throwing updates out there about his son and what's going on. And it's a story that we've been following and that we care about greatly. We love you, Jake. We love you, Brian. If you would like to make a donation to Jake and just, help out that family for all the stuff that they are going through, there is a QR code on the screen where you can go and be part of their GoFundMe as they just keep trying to navigate through life and what is being thrown at them. And we just want to see the best for Jake and Brian. I did find out that when Brian was on the show back in the summer, if he reached a certain goal on LinkedIn, he was going to do a calendar of him in underwear. Apparently he did that, and one person bought all the calendars to save him from the humiliation of having his packaged junk out in everybody's shops. So, you may have missed out on a calendar, but that doesn't mean you have to miss out an opportunity to help out. So consider giving to Jake and Brian in this cause. We are continuing to push on and do multiple shows. It's a lot of fun. The purpose of this show is to be able to tell American manufacturing stories and the journeys, the successes and the failures, all areas and aspects of the manufacturing experience. So that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to talk about all the jobs. What we're going to talk about is how you can continue to grow your company and make a difference in the lives of your people, of your customers, and of the community around you. And so I'm really excited for today's guest. Jared Brubaker is a coach and a leadership coach, and he has a manufacturing background. And I'm really excited to dig into this today because those are all things that I'm really, really passionate about. And so I'm going to bring him in now, and then we will get this thing started. Jared, how are you?
What's up, Tony? Doing well.
I'm really glad that you're here. I'm glad that you reached out. You reached out after the Jim Mayer episode. Apparently you found some value in that, which is good. I always like when people find value in what we're doing. That makes me happy.
Helps.
And sometimes you never know, right? You don't know what people are thinking of the things you're doing. And sometimes that's better, I guess. But yeah, you reached out, and yesterday I posted saying that we had an emergency guest drop out, and you were like, "Hey, I'm available. I'll do this," and we get to have a chat. So, Jared, tell people a little bit about who you are, so that they can have a little bit of a flavor to what this conversation is going to be today.
Yeah. So I'm a manufacturing guy. I've been in manufacturing about 22 years. I started from the production floor, worked my way up, but ended up as a COO of a starting plastics company, an Israeli group, opened their North American division a few years ago, about 6 years ago. We started that from scratch to where that got acquired, and wore a lot of hats throughout that position and doing a lot of different things. And so as I kind of stepped away from that, was the idea of what do I want to do, where I want to spend my time. And really for me, that was always around leadership and how you can really pour into different people and be able to actually develop people from inside companies and be able to grow them into something better. So that's who I am.
How did you find an Israeli company that was going to start in the US? I mean, I'm sure you weren't like specifically looking for an Israeli company.
Yeah, so that one was kind of weird. So I'd worked in South Chicago Heights in a plant for years in the Chicagoland area, and I'm actually from Northwest Indiana. So I was taking a little bit of drive over there, and actually just saw it pop up online that a plastics company was finally starting in Northwest Indiana. Hadn't really seen that before for thermoforming and extrusion. It's not real common here. So the plant was about 15 minutes away from my house instead of almost an hour away from my house. So that was a pretty big selling point to start. But I didn't know it was an Israeli company at the time, but started to apply for it, and it was very different than the way companies do positions, even in the States, right? So the way they even staff things is very different. So found them on that, and was able to actually get them to. They were going to do two different positions for leading a extrusion department and thermoforming department. I come from experience doing both, doing inline machines, so actually got them to combine the two positions to make it a production manager position, and then just actually took over the whole operation. So we kind of did it right from the start. I think there's 5 employees when I started. We were still putting walls up and building the place out, and we did all the hiring from there. I went to Israel the first week. That was a real weird one because you interview at a place, it's at a card table, because really the whole building was pretty much a shell at that point. So interviewed at a card table with a bunch of random chairs around it, and then they tell you as soon as you start that you need to fly to Israel, just get on a plane and go to another country. So I definitely thought my organs were going to get harvested for a minute there, but everything worked out and everything's been okay.
It's got to be one of those experiences where you think like, what am I getting myself into?
Yeah, it was a weird one. It's definitely a different thing, but the international business, I mean, it's fun to see the differences in culture. So I don't know if you've worked with any places that there are different countries doing it, or come into companies that were European or something, starting something. It's very different to see, especially the Israeli culture is a very interesting way of doing business. The guys are great, but you can be a lot more direct and upfront in Israeli culture. So it was a very common thing for our CEO, an Israeli guy, to when I'd have new people start, they'd come to my office freaking out because he'd be yelling at someone on the phone in Hebrew, and he'd just be going off on them. Like, no, it's okay. That's in a minute he's going to say toda toda, and then they're going to end the call. Everything's going to be okay. But it's a much more aggressive way of doing speech. So you can get in these meetings and you can go at it at each other as hard as you want to, because everyone knows we're just trying to solve this problem. We're trying to do the business, and then it ends. Everyone's laughing. Everything's fine. And you walk out, and there's just no hard feelings. Whereas U.S. business, you do that, and like 3 people are fired out of that meeting immediately. So it's a fun way of doing business. I like working with the Israeli crew.
We worked with a Turkish organization for a little while, and I imagine it was very similar. I mean, I never worked with an Israeli organization, but what struck me was like, I told the guy, I was like, dude, everything you say sounds like you're pissed off. Like you don't have a nice, friendly, warm tone at all. Like, I
Yeah.
just feel like you're always yelling and always pissed off. Like, how is that possible?
Yeah. What's funny is they're actually some of the nicest guys, but in interviews, I have an Israeli guy in there, and the people I talk to him afterwards, and they're like, I thought he hated me. He's
Yeah.
just sitting there with his arms crossed, just kind of scowling at me the whole time. And I was like, dude, he was great with you. Like from the first question he asked, you nailed it. He's good. Like he was great with you, but they don't really get that. But then you get to know him, and I take a bullet for my old CEO, the Israeli, my Israeli boss, because they're very much a group of people that will really they build trust, and they're very loyal, and they
Mm,
will take care of their teams as they do that. And so an example of that, it's just funny because of the different cultures. Like again, I worked in South Chicago Heights for most of my career, and at some point we had an employee that actually got arrested.
okay.
I worked in South Chicago Heights. That's not that uncommon to have an employee get pulled out and arrested. He wasn't arrested out of our building, but over in Ohio. And for us, we're like, okay, cool, move on to the next one. And he wanted to go and like talk to the judge and bail him out and like get him on the right path right away because he had that much concern. As one of our employees, this could change his whole life. It made us feel terrible because we're like, we're just kind of used to this,
Right.
and yet he's still seeing the people. So learned a lot from that, and kind of got me back to the idea of like, no, people actually are the most important thing. Let's spend our time investing in that instead of worrying about the numbers.
Yeah. I want to dig into more of that as we get into the
Yeah.
leadership side of things. How did you get into manufacturing? What was the lead up to that in your career journey?
Yeah, so I never wanted to be in manufacturing at all.
Same.
I was very against it, right? Yeah, I know, and I think yeah. So your dad was in it. Like my dad was a supervisor at the plant I ended up working at.
Okay.
And by the way, he never wanted us in manufacturing. He
Same.
he was very much against it. So it's like go find something good. Go find something you like that won't isn't that daily grind. So yeah, he didn't want it. We tried to open a pizza place as a family. Um, Ended up we opened up the weekend after September 11th.
Oh,
So we just happened to be in there. We're painting the place and we're watching everything that's going on there. So certainly not the worst thing that happened, our business closing over that time, but certainly wasn't a great time to open a business. So after that, we all tried to kind of find other things and do different things. But he knew it was a really great paying job and something with great benefits. And so we were starting to try to have families. So he was able to get me and my brother actually in and start working in manufacturing. Um, yeah, so that was kind of how I ended up in it. A few weeks into it, I christened myself as an actual manufacturing guy. I had a work accident and took a couple fingertips off. So
okay.
until you've actually lost some flesh, then we know you're not really in manufacturing. So that was started that 3 weeks in, and had multiple other hand injuries in the first year. But yeah, that's kind of how I rolled into it. And I never thought I'd stay in it, but you make a good living for your family and start to find the things about it that you do like, and you can start to put your energy there and pouring into people. For me, training other people and helping guys that really no one's given them a chance, right? They don't even have a GED. They can still make a living for their family. So how can I grow those guys and support them? So that's what I would do from the production floors. I would try to turn material handlers into operators into leads as much as I could.
Right. So when you first came into manufacturing,
Mhm.
what were your initial thoughts?
It's very boring, right? I mean, it's yeah, do manufacturing. Good manufacturing is the most repetitive process in the world, right? With no variability. That's what manufacturing really is. So, um,
Well, it's what
yeah,
it
that
can be.
that
It
was
depends on
yeah,
the organization, the company, and what your position in that is as a whole.
yeah, yeah, for sure. But yeah, that was definitely in those days. It was it definitely kept you kind of gated off into different areas. There wasn't a lot of areas to really learn. There definitely wasn't a development program, and yeah, it was. Yeah, the reason my dad didn't want us in there is because it was kind of a dead end, right? At the time,
Mm,
you capped off at supervisor, you'd never make it to management. in those days. They just didn't come from the floor. So you knew kind of going into it, what the max was that you could make. So yeah, so I found it very boring. I wasn't technical either.
Yep.
I'm not a tools guy. Like I'm not good with tools in that way or anything. So I actually had to learn in a different way than most people. So it was a little bit different for me than I think a lot of guys that are really technically inclined.
Sure. And so how long into being there were you like, this is not for me? I mean, was it before you chopped off your fingers or
Oh, yeah,
after?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was all the time. It really I remember telling a guy, like, "If I'm still here in 5 years, I want you to take me out, okay? Like, don't let this happen. I can't still be stuck here." But, you start doing it, and it's difficult to get out once you're in it. So, yeah, I didn't like it from the beginning, no.
Okay. That's interesting. I I find that like I would struggle very much doing like a production job, like just a standard production job, like like you said, boring, same thing day in, day out. That's not my skill set. I have great respect for people that can do that, that can tune in and tune out, I guess, right? And be able to do those things. That's not me. I like fluidity. I like moving. I like, shifting in what's happening around me. That's a big part of, who I am.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
and that's always amazed me. I mean, you got people that have been there 40 years and packers that have been putting cups in a box for 40 years, same motion, just lifting this going in, and they're amazing at it. Don't get me wrong, and they're happy, they're content. But it's a very specific type of person that's willing to do that for that period of time. Yeah, that's not me. It's not anything I enjoyed.
yeah. So you did that for how long?
So yeah, I worked in that company. Climbed up through operator. I think it was there probably around 14, 15 years with that first company.
Okay.
Went up to operator, ended up actually getting passed over for a promotion opportunity, and that's kind of what I think diverted my path a little bit because it was one I did not take it well on that one. I didn't agree with it. I didn't see it as something that really should have happened, and I made that pretty clear. I wasn't unprofessional. I actually went hyper professional. I actually wrote a 3-page document as
Oh,
to why I
wow.
disagreed with this decision, and
Okay. That's fair.
yeah. I mean, it's just I was like, I can't make sense of this. People were talking to me about this position last week and now it's not, so I ended up I went that route. I actually ended up going to their new plant. They were starting just a few miles away, and I came in as one of the first members of that team. But it set me on a different path because I decided, okay, I'm never going to be in a position again where I'm going to miss an opportunity that I
Mm,
think should have been mine. I'm going to make it so I'll make it so obvious that I'm the right choice. That'll never happen again. So
yeah.
I went back, actually got a 4-year degree in 2 years while working that job fully, and was able to finally start climbing into different positions in that company, moving in the process department. And there I was able to finally start to make some change, started managing that department, and then got them to actually do a lot more investment in the training. So
Okay.
I basically got the group to take over training for the operators and being able to develop skills in that company.
Okay. So you stuck around for something that you hated. You stuck around for quite some time.
I did. I mean, it's right at the end of the day, we're still here to take care of our families, right?
Yes.
So I've got now I have a large family, but insurance is very good and the pay was very good. But part of it is, let's be clear. I mean, actually, most of it is me at the end of that. It was I would not let my mind switch over to the
Mm,
idea that it's okay. Like this is okay. It's got value and it's something that, I can make a good living from, I can grow in, and I can actually, add some value, I can worship through my work.
yep.
I would not let myself mentally switch over to that.
Mm,
And that's what held me back. Honestly, it's because I wasn't willing to say, yeah, I can, okay, whether I'm gonna be here or not, I'm gonna go ahead and just be that I'm gonna be content with this
sure.
each day. It's not that
Sure.
I did a bad job. I definitely didn't, but was I being content with it? Did I let my attitude slip from it? Yeah, the whole time until I started kind of finding those positions that I could really, really flourish in. So yeah.
So when you write your 3-page document of why they're stupid and made the wrong decision and why you should have been the right choice, What is the response from the company after that?
Very limited. So again, this is where I think it so yeah, that happened. And then so I asked for, I want a meeting. I need these things answered. Here's, I gave you my little manifesto here.
Yep.
I want to hear responses to these things. Just, if you can make a good case for it, I'm good. I can't understand it at this point. So it got passed on for like, I think it was like 2 months.
Okay.
Still, I'd never gotten my sit down. Um, so ended up finally getting it. I think it got escalated to HR. And so I ended up in this sit down. And that's really where is the first time I'd seen someone up till that point, it was just like, well, it was a 50-50, it was coin flip between you and this other guy. I'm like, well, I've got 5 years more experience. I've worked on more equipment, whatever. So if it's coin flip, it's kind of got to go to me, right? And they just kept saying that. Well, once HR was in it, they took a different tack. So now it was,
Mm,
oh no, we would never have considered you for this role, and they just took a low integrity route.
wow.
And it was something I was really shocked at because it was literally like you'd asked me if I'd take the night shift one but not the day shift one. And now now you're saying, oh, we'd never consider you. So, like I said, I'm a spiteful individual, is what I've come to find. Is I'm very motivated by spite, and so it was something where I was like, okay, if we're gonna do this, like I'm gonna show you what you missed out on, and yeah, I'm gonna go to a whole different level. So that's where. Yeah, it wasn't received well. The meeting was not great. And literally that meeting, I got it on it was the last day I was going to be at that plant. So I was moving to the next plant on Monday. And so they gave me the meeting on Friday at like 3 p.m. So it was just like, okay, yeah, say your piece and then get out. And so I went to the other site and flourished there. But yeah, it was a very poor response, I would say.
And so that other plant was part of the same company?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So it's all the same company, but yeah, it was their first one kind of splitting off into a plant nearby. So it was a new venture for them.
Did they deem you as a problem child at that point and be like, we got to get rid of this guy and send him to a different location? Is that how you ended up going to that plant, or what did that look like?
No, it was voluntary. I actually I chose to. And it was more because, I know I'm like, I'm gonna start being that guy if I
Yeah.
stay here because I
Yeah.
am bothered by this. So I'm like, I need to get out of this and roll over there. So yeah, I requested it. But it was the best choice for everybody. And then it gave me the ability to, okay, let's focus on how I can add value here
Yep.
and grow this one. It was definitely one where they didn't do quite as well at that time with using the resources of both facilities. So it was like, even though they were like 3 miles away from each other, they didn't use those same resources well. So it was kind of out of sight, out of mind. So yeah, I think they were okay with me not kind of bringing anything up at that point. But I was sure not to, I wasn't disrespectful to anyone on the floor or anything. I just wanted answers. That's all.
Yeah. So then you go to the new facility, and how long do you work there?
That plant, probably 4 years in total. So I ended up starting to move up the ranks there. As positions became available and started, working in other departments in that plant 4 or 5 years.
Do you feel like for you to be recognized and promoted in those areas that you had to change your direction and your the way that you were interacting with people, your personality? Did you have to change what you were bringing to the table in order for people to recognize you and say, "Wait, maybe he should be right for this position"?
Yeah. So I think there's a couple things to it. Unfortunately, it's often getting in front of the right person that really understands that. I think that was the bigger thing. The plant manager at that plant had a different way of thinking.
Hmm.
And often you saw, especially at that time, manufacturing, it was still stuck in a lot of really old mindsets. And a lot of companies still are, but they're stuck in that. No, this is how we do it. This is how we did it. We've been doing it this way for 40 years. So that should work tomorrow and everything will be okay.
It's the
Um,
worst answer ever
I know
because we've
it's
always done it. It's the
yeah.
worst.
Yeah. Well, and I'd have people say that, and this company especially, it was, this was like almost in a subdivision. The way this plant was, it was right on the edge of the subdivision, and so a lot of people that work there, they're families from this community, and so this was the plant they worked at, and so yeah, a lot of those things just got carried and passed down. But yeah, I think it was getting in front of the right people, and then what I teach now, especially, is for those people coming from the floor, is you got to find a way to add different value.
Mm,
So I would say my brother and I both kind of came into it with a very different approach to what we thought should be done and how things should be handled. So when I became the manager of the process department, it was because I got it over someone who had 30 years experience, and they've
okay.
been in that role, the same role that I was in, and as a process supervisor for over 10 years. And the reason I got over him after doing it for only 1 year is because I came with fresh ideas. So I had a 5 point plan that I walked in with of, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take training. We're gonna reduce the margins on the product by doing this. I gave a straight up 5 point plan on it that wasn't just, we're just going to keep it going and just keep doing what we're doing. So, yeah, get in front of the right people that recognize that and are willing to actually take those chances was probably even more critical. What I had always done pretty well was getting good investment from the people around me on the floor. But especially in this a company that size, there is that bureaucracy of
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to navigate, the higher levels as you're dealing with people. Because I will say, like, for example, even HR at that time, as an hourly employee, they barely said a word to you.
Hmm.
Literally, the day I got supervisor, like, suddenly it was like I was a whole different person. I'm a real human being, and like, people can talk to you. So again, it was just a very different way of doing things, and figuring out what you need to say to which people is important when you're trying to navigate that stuff.
It doesn't sound like a great culture overall.
I think at the time it wasn't. I think, as I've as I've gone and started one from scratch, I definitely will say I understand how companies get like that now,
Mm,
because you have to be really intentional, and that
right.
takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. And as things scale, that becomes harder and harder. There's things that we did when we wrote our rule book that I told my HR manager at the time, like, this one's going to get abused, because I could have figured out a way to abuse this, right? And so you actually end up with rules that have names on them of, like, yeah, this is when Jimmy did this one, and it's the
Yeah.
Jimmy rule because he went ahead and found a way to screw us with this one, so we modified the rule to mean this. So it's, I get why you get so tired of putting out fires that you just, instead, it's like, let's set the walls so high that no one is ever going to come over them, and we're good. So yeah, I came to kind of understand it, but it doesn't make it good. It just means you have to work that much harder to be intentional.
And intention is like, it's a big part of it, right? Like there's a lot of things I intend to do. And then there's
Yeah.
other things that I have the time to do, right? And sometimes they like they miss each other, you know.
Yeah.
One of my biggest weaknesses is I never know what today is. Like I know it's Wednesday, right? Yeah. I know it's Wednesday, but for me to know the date is a
Mhm.
big miss. So
Yeah.
I will tell somebody like, listen, I'll work on that. I'll get that to you. Let's follow up and have another conversation. And I don't recognize how much time passes between those things.
Yeah.
And so my intention is always there, right? To reconnect and have that conversation and dig back in. I'm never trying to ignore the thing. I just don't realize that like 4 or 5 weeks have gone by and I
Yeah.
haven't responded or given any thought back to anybody. And that's a big weakness that I've had people um try to steer me away from. And I appreciate the feedback because I don't realize I'm doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is tough. It's trying to actually take the intentions and actually make them work. It takes a whole different plan, and you really have to find a way to lay it out, and then you got to review it every day, every week, and take an action on it,
Right.
some kind. Yeah.
Right. And make sure that you're doing the things that you think that you should be doing and
Yeah.
the things that only you can be doing. Um, so you leave that company. Is that when you went to the Israeli company?
Yep. So eventually, saw that pop up, ended up wanting to go and try that opportunity. And yeah, ended up in the Israeli company, and much smaller plants, smaller machines than what we're used to. Again, the European way of production, that's a whole other category on its own of trying to merge those cultures up, because again, they can't grasp the scale of this country,
Mm,
and our, even just our distribution channels, right? It's the idea that you can make something here in Chicago and you can ship it to every corner of the country,
Right.
and it may just come from that one site, is something they can't comprehend. So yeah, so they kind of went smaller scale. I always wanted to go big, big, big. I wanted to multiply the machines really quickly, um, and get that going as much as possible. But yeah, wasn't growing quite as quick as I would love for it to be as a
Sure.
U.S. guy in the company.
Yeah. And so you went from like you started in that company and you held all the roles, you figured out how to do different things, and you helped them grow and find success. I'm assuming.
Yeah, so we did really well. The COVID hit during that time, so we
Yep.
were we were a year in, just over a year in, and we just gone. I just gotten them shifted to 24/7, which was really really important that we did. So we started that at the start of the year. I was like, we just need to do it. Let's get it going because we're going to have to train people and grow people. So we got 24/7, and then COVID hit, and yeah, we our lines never stopped running again, basically. So it was a massive change. So this really gave me a ton of freedom to actually make a lot of good changes that I would have never been able to make in a larger company. So example of this, right? So COVID hit, and we had been running orders that in thermoforming, you're running a lot longer run orders. For example, I used to run K cups in
Okay.
in those coffee pods. Previous company, we had 3 lines that never stopped running them. They made 7 million a day each. So you're
Wow.
running 21 million of those cups every single day, and it's just year round. So every cup that you can make, they would take, and that's kind of the situation we were in. So yeah, we started to figure out the math of what we needed to actually like keep the lights on, because that math hadn't actually been done as well as we thought it was in the past. And we found out, like, yeah, what we thought we needed and what we need is very different number. So we actually took it apart and broke it down by product, and basically took everything and showed what we had to be on in utilization in order to make it work. So we had to extend our run. So COVID hits, and now we run one tray for 3 months straight, and suddenly our profits jump by 40%. And so they start seeing, okay, longer runs obviously make you more money without changeovers and things like that. So we're able to change that. Then we actually reduce the product mix, because if you can sell every tray you can make, your only job is to make as many trays as is humanly possible.
Sure.
And so we basically changed the entire product mix so that we could do longer runs, and we were even getting product from Israel that we had to get back in there. So yeah, it's very successful. We went for a few years before we started to have another group that was interested in acquiring the company.
Okay. And
Yeah.
is that when you decided like I'm done with manufacturing? I have learned some stuff uh that I want to pass on to the next group of people and help manufacturers continue to grow and grow their leadership.
Yeah. So at that time, not yet, because I came with the acquisition. So that acquisition happened about a little over 2 years ago,
Okay.
and actually almost 2.5 years ago. So we went into that thinking, okay, we're going to grow, we're going to be massive, and we're going to do something really big off this. It was acquired by a Danish group. Um, and that's when kind of the culture went a little bit off the rails. So we built
Mm,
something that we think was really cool. We were always very happy that we felt like our culture was a thing that people that weren't comfortable in the culture we created, they'd move themselves out. They'd basically
mm.
remove themselves. We got the new group in. You've worked with some Germans in the past, right? Different
Yes.
German companies,
Yes.
great engineers and everything.
Yes.
Very sure of themselves, right? Very sure that what they're doing is the best,
This
and
cannot
whatever you
be.
think,
We have a
probably
problem.
not.
This cannot be.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't matter what reality is showing you. They did the engineering. It's good, right? The Danish are very similar in that way. So very clear on what they want. Nice guys,
Yeah.
but very clear on what they want and what they think something should be. And again, it is their first time in the U.S. as well. And so a very different approach to the way you would do business. And so everything we had kind of changed to be successful in the U.S. They kind of reverted back to, because like, well, that's not how we do it over there. It's like, well, yeah, because you're shipping to somebody in a country that is smaller than my state. So yeah, that's not that's not really the same model, the same business model. So they made a lot of changes in that way. So yeah, I actually went to, as we kind of saw, like, yeah, this is probably going to go a way that we don't think will end well. Started to I tried to leave. My boss, my Israeli CEO, is still with the company. He offered a 3-month sabbatical. I stepped out to start doing some of this and developing it. And while I was out, they actually eliminated both of our positions and kind of
Oh,
did a whole restructure. And so, I think they were a little tired of us telling them, like, that's not going to work. We need to make this adjustment. So, yeah, so they removed that. And yeah, so then it was good because now it's a burn the boats moment, right? Of
yes.
great, now you're into it. My wife can't say you shouldn't do that now because I'm already into it. So we're good to go.
And I mean, that's got to be hard, right? You're in somewhere on the ground floor. You develop a culture. You have a strong culture, based on the things that you guys think are important, working together as a team. And somebody comes in and says, "No, we're changing all that stuff."
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's kind of our baby, and the people there, I love, right? These are, and again, a good enough culture to where, so with that, especially by cutting out the CEO, he was the heart of the company, and that's something they didn't really understand. So, um, in doing that, basically they lost almost the entire executive team in one shot because everyone else walked. And again, we were so lean that were very critical people, both for technical support on the floor and really in every area. So, but again, kind of speaking to our culture, even though it's been about 6 months since then, we meet almost every month. People that we don't work together anymore,
Wow.
we're still actually grabbing dinner, reaching out almost every week. I talk to almost every one of them, just because we'd gone through a lot of things, right? I think there's one thing that really builds people together is you get them in a tough struggle like that of what we built and how much work went into it, and we all have a bond that really is going to continue as we go. So yeah, so it's hard to see that. I mean, it's basically you're seeing your kid kind of taken. Essentially, it's something you built, you grew it from scratch. I mean, I didn't own the company, but we treat it like we did, and we're very
Sure.
proud of what we built. So yeah, it's unfortunate to kind of see it, but again, we're confident in what we did, and we're proud of what we did, and that's something I think it took until then for me to look back and be like, yeah, actually, we did a really good job with everything up till then, because you just don't stop, right? You just keep working and working. You don't often take a breath and look and see what you did, and see that it was good.
Yeah. So I love what you're doing now, right? And one of the things that you said is that you think manufacturing kind of sucks at developing leaders.
Yeah, that's a quote. Absolutely.
I
So I
got it
stand
right
by
here. I
that.
mean,
So
I
yeah,
didn't change the words. It's right here. It's right here.
absolutely. Done.
Um,
So
so how do we change that? And let's
yeah.
start with, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So again, as we talked about, manufacturing often, when done right, is a very repetitive process where you remove variables. So in most manufacturing facilities, your jobs, especially the entry level positions, are all set out to work instructions. Your job is to create the most perfect work instruction so that any decision that comes up for this person, they don't have to think about it. It's this or it's this, and that's it. And so you remove all variability from all these positions on the floor because you're following a very set process. And that's necessary to a degree, of course. We don't want to be deciding every single time. So that's valuable. However, when you then take someone who's the best at working in that kind of an environment and in that skill set of follow this instruction and don't do anything different, and now you say, okay, so you're the best at that. So let's promote you to a position where now you can lead other people, make them good at that. Well, you've taken someone who is working in an environment that has zero variability, and you're putting him managing people, which is a
Right.
job that has unlimited variability, right? And we expect that they'll do well with that. And oddly enough, they don't. And so I think they go a few different ways. They either they fall back from it. I think the stats are, I mean, I hear a different stat every week, but all the stats are like 60 to 80% of first time leaders fail within the first 18 months.
Mm,
And so that's insane, but it's because, again, they're not, what got them there isn't going to get them to the next level, isn't going to make them successful in it. And so we have to basically, we have to change that in some way to kind of get them to a different step. But you'd often see then they just become babysitters, right? So they just become where they're, okay, I'm just going to make sure everyone does the thing because that's what I'm judged on. That's when you end up with these supervisors people hate working for because they don't take the person into account. They only take the rules into account. And again, they can use those policies to beat people over the head with instead of understanding, their position and what they could do differently. So
Sure.
I think that's where the problem starts on it.
And I think that's where, correct me if I'm wrong, that's where you get the kind of person that's a micromanager, and you get the people that, bell to bell, like work buzzer to buzzer.
Yeah.
There's no gray area in any of the things, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you have to be able to understand everything from from the position of the person, and then let's fix the issue with it. Isn't it just you did it wrong, write them up, right? Instead, it's how can I coach this person? But first, let's understand what they don't understand because I think especially in manufacturing, because you do things, they become second nature to people. People often just become bad at training because they just breathe this stuff. Why doesn't this person get it? Well, it's because they haven't done it for the last 10 years and they don't know the subtle nuances of what you're doing. And that's why they can't go as fast or they can't do that. So first figure out what they're not understanding and actually let's start from there and let's fill those gaps instead of just saying they're just doing it wrong. Like, okay, cool, how? And then being really clear with the expectations. I think that's another massive one that we teach is the idea that if you're not setting those expectations really, really clearly for what you want out of it and what that looks like, then how do you expect this person to actually nail them? So if you're not communicating that frequently and as you adjust, or if they're failing, you better be reviewing those expectations again really hard and getting them to a position where they understand it so that if you're going to hold them accountable for it, you better make sure they know exactly what you meant.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point. There's a lot of times, I was telling you before that I am very blessed to have people in my life that tell me when I suck at things. It's just great.
Yeah.
I can take that on, right? As a leader, I enjoy hearing those things. I don't enjoy hearing them, but I can grow from those things and learn
Right.
and recognize, like, okay, I am not perfect. I have some flaws, and I need quality people in my life that I can trust, that are
Mhm.
going to tell me these things, not because they want to upset me or hurt my feelings or whatever that looks like, but because they believe in what we're doing and they
Yeah.
want me to get better so that we can all get better.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you really think about as people, where do you think you learned your leadership skills? Do you think it was from this job when you got into it, or you think you had them before you came into it?
I think that no, it's not from this job.
Right.
I can tell you that it's not from this
Yeah.
job. I mean, I think I learned a collection of things from a variety of places, and I am the sum of multiple parts, all coming together, and different ideas and different thoughts.
Yeah.
My father started the company, and a lot of our core values were based on who I think he is as a person and the things that he's taught me and said along the way, and
Mhm.
watching the way he led. But there are certain things that I 100% disagree with the way that he led, and I don't want to take those things on.
Right.
Um, Other jobs that I worked for, other places, looking at what they were doing and identifying what I would hate to be thought of, and trying to go the other direction of those things. Um,
Mhm.
and just having the ability to, like, see some of those things. I mean, even movies, right? Like, Braveheart is one of my favorite leadership movies of all time. Uh, I think it's mandatory watching for somebody that wants to
Yeah.
be in leadership. Lately, it's Ted Lasso. Like, I think Ted Lasso is one of the greatest leadership shows that could ever be put on.
Yeah. 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 It's finding those leaders, right? Yeah, I think that's the problem though, right? If we have bad leaders in manufacturing, that's what they're repeating. They're
Yes.
emulating those worst ones, right? And I think that's actually I think that's the more dangerous thing in that stat about leaders failing in their first 18 months is the ones that don't, right? The ones that stay in it,
Mm.
is it because they were good at it or is it because they were okay not being good at it longer than other people? Is that really what's kind of led to it? And so then are we just repeating that, right? Are we repeating the mistakes of our father, for example,
Yeah.
in these different areas? So
Well, and I think a lot of times in manufacturing, you kind of get you kind of feel like you're stuck, right? And you go, well, if not them, then who else? Right?
Yeah.
Like I don't have, you could sometimes look at it and say, I don't have a surplus of people that are lining up for that job, or I don't know that they're lining up for that job.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
Okay, so you recognize the failures and the flaws in manufacturing developing leaders.
Mhm.
And so now, how do you take that next step to talk to manufacturing companies and say, listen, I don't know how to tell you this, but you guys are doing this wrong, right? Like
Yeah.
you have more people, but you're doing this wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the stuff I'm learning, honestly, how to really communicate that message without, completely shutting everybody off. But the ways I kind of view it is, okay, how much are you recruiting? So anytime that you have a supervisor position or above, are you going outside? And if you are, why? Do you truly not believe that someone who works on the floor is capable of
Mm,
learning leadership skills enough to where they can grow into one of these positions? Like that's the arrogance of that you are some higher level human being that was born with these traits that no one from the floor could possibly grasp is just it's so arrogant. It's insane. So, you know, instead it's the idea, okay, how much are you spending on that? What if you just took that? If you just even took half of that, your retention costs, your turnover costs, and your recruiting costs. If you took half of that and poured it back into your people, what could you actually have? So now I don't have to recruit because I can actually develop people from inside. I'm not having as much turnover because the leaders I'm bringing in, they're already aligned with our culture because they grew up in our culture, and so a lot of those things can change. So that's kind of what I throw towards them in terms of the approach to how we do that is I want it to be different than when I did see leadership development in manufacturing. It's often bring somebody in, they're going to do a 1 or 2 day course. They're gonna throw 8 hours of information at you. The people totally remember like 10% of it, maybe. Most of it they're just gonna make fun of, and then and then
and
we're gonna send them out, and they're good, right? They're good until something horrible happens. They're probably fine. So they're just gonna shoot them out there and hope they learned all that. And I mean, think about it just from the technical training side. Okay, so when you do technical training with people, I mean, that can be months long processes, when we actually show somebody. And we would never just bring them in a classroom, tell them how to do the thing, and then shoot them out to the production floor and then never check on them again. Like that'd
right.
be insane. But that's absolutely what we do on the leadership side. So what I don't want to do that. I mean, I can do trainings and everything, and certainly I'm set to where I will, but what I want is I want the ongoing training. So I want that intentionality we talked about has to be different. And so the way we're doing it differently is yes, there's training, but I'm actually trying to build a leadership community. So and where this actually came from is health coaching.
Okay.
I received some health coaching about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Started doing some health coaching with a guy online, and leadership and I think fitness has a lot to do with each other, right? I
Yes.
mean, at the base of them, they're both super easy, right? If you just look at the basics of what they are, I mean, if you want to lose weight, eat a little bit less and move some. That's pretty much it. That'll get you 80% of the way.
Eat less,
But
move more.
yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it at its base. Of course, there's nuance and there's other things we can do, but I mean, the base core is that. Leadership is similar, right? Treat people with respect. Don't be a jerk, and that's probably going to get you a good portion of the way, right? Set clear expectations and just don't be a monster, and you'll get most of the way there. But most people fail at it. So what does that tell us? So I think a lot of it is that where I was successful in the health coaching or in receiving it, I lost 62 pounds doing a program from a health coach online, and it's because they had accountability. They reached out 3 times a week. They checked all your macros. They gave you the workout, so they gave you assignments out of it, and they held you accountable to that. There's weekly calls to talk about mindset or some health thing. They bring experts in, and so you were thinking about this every hour of every day because they were on you all the
Yep.
time about it. And so it created accountability out of it. why can't we do that for leadership? And why shouldn't we do that for leadership? And actually build that where not only are we, yes, we're giving people the training, but then we're keeping that constant. So the way we do it differently is actually having the community, having weekly calls where we're going to cover a topic about leadership. Sometimes experts are going to come in. Maybe we'll talk about lean manufacturing, but we can basically keep hitting them on these different things and then have a community where we can hold them accountable for what they're doing, can set a plan in place, have them commit to, hey, what am I going to do this week? How are you going to build trust with your team this week? We can challenge them, and then we can see how they react to that. And basically, it's just keeping things at the front of your mind. Often we just don't think about it because KPIs are more important. We all know when everything's on fire, the only thing that's going to matter is the numbers. So if that's how it's going to be inside the plant, let's have an outside resource that's still keeping them and focusing back to that leadership side, that the people's what's most important, and spend time focusing on that.
No, I love that. And I do feel like sometimes that is an easy thing to get lost. Again, like I said before, you can very quickly lose track of time between the attaboys that you are willing to give out, right? And they're free.
Yep.
So there's no reason not to overly tell somebody good job on whatever it is that they're doing. You just forget. Not even forget. You just everybody gets busy in their day and what that looks like. And it, for whatever reason, it falls from the front of your mind, and before you know it, it's too late, and somebody's upset about not being appreciated and what that looks like.
Yeah. And that's a perfect one for me. It's one that I'm bad at. And it's not because I don't appreciate people or anything. It's just, I'm not motivated by that. Like normally if someone gives me a compliment like that in the workplace, I'm actually offended because I feel like, what, did you think I wasn't gonna kill it at that? So like I'm actually like hurt by it. So then whenever the people are like you didn't say I did a great job with that, I was like, I genuinely didn't know you needed that. Like I just assumed, I assume you're gonna do great. Like I believe in you that much that you're just gonna kill it every time. I just didn't mention it. It wasn't even intentional, but it's just something I don't think about because that's not what motivates me. And so yeah, even just having that of like, okay, cool. This is an area that your people need, that they want to be poured into. Great. Hey, did you give 3 of those out this week? Give me 3 people that you told them they did a great job. You highlighted specifically what they did, how they excelled in that area, how it helped us. Like, how can you do that and just get, build that accountability out of it?
And knowing what each individual person needs, right? I mean, you cannot look at, hate is a strong word, but I use it. I hate when people say you have to treat everybody equally, because not everybody wants to be treated equally. Some people want public declarations of being awesome. Some people want a private pat on the back. Some people don't want you to say anything at all. Some people want you to just expect what they're doing. And it's so difficult to be able to be all things to all people if you don't know all the people and what it is that makes them tick. I think Gary Vay talks about that all the time, that if you don't know your team, you're missing out, right?
Yeah.
What makes them tick? What do they need? What do they want? How do you motivate them in individual ways? And each person, that thing is different.
Yeah. It's a good example. I mean, you've got, I recently went to a conference as a Tim Elmore one where he talked about the different generations that are in the workforce. You can have 4 to 5 generations in the workforce right now. The things that motivate those people are very different, no generalizations, but again, somebody that's 60 years old and somebody that's coming to the workforce right now, they're not motivated by the same things.
No.
They're just not, and that's okay. But yeah, what are we doing to talk about that and address that with them? I mean, I think at the end of the day, this workforce, as people are coming in, right, they care a lot more about what's in it for them. That's not really different than what was always true. It's just that what was important to, like when my dad got into manufacturing, the only thing he cared about is making sure that he could support his wife, his sons, and have something steady. That was it. And that's what he did. And to make sure that, hey, give him a better life than what he had on it. That's it. That's all he wanted in the world. And so that's what motivated him.
The more overtime, the better, right? The more overtime, the better.
Yeah. They're having another Saturday overtime, guys. I'm gonna be on, That's what I mean. He worked on night shift. He hated nights, man. He hated nights, and he worked on night shift for like 13 years for us, for a few different reasons. But he, one of them was just because that's how it was. Things didn't move as quickly and moving up. But he also, he wanted to be at our stuff during the day, so he would work all night, and then if we had soccer games or basketball or wrestling, whatever, he wanted to be there for it. So
Yep.
those were the things that motivated him. Yeah, you take a 20-year-old kid now, again, their motivations are different. It feels more like they're interviewing you than you're interviewing them now when you interview them, which is a little bit weird. But I think in the end, if you can, that's an opportunity to align your goals right away. One of the first things I teach is about alignment of goals. So
Okay.
you have your company goals, but are you starting with the idea of how do we get to those? Why don't you start with understanding what your people's goals are and then build a bridge between those two things? Because you find out what's important to them, how they want to grow, then great. Maybe I can go ahead and align some tasks, some projects, and their workflow to be something that helps me meet my goals, but doesn't have them spending their day feeling like this sucks. So
What do you feel about people that they have no desire to lead, right? They are happy just coming to work, doing their job, and going home.
yeah, I mean, there's a place for it at the end of the day. It's hard for me. It's super hard for me to kind of accept that. But we treated every single position at our plant as a leadership position. And so
Okay.
we even had that every review had leadership in it to some way. So do they need to lead from a role? No. Do they need to lead laterally every single day? Absolutely.
Yep.
And that's another area I think we're often really weak to hold people on the floor accountable for, because they don't treat it like that. I view every single spot as that because they're influencing your people in one way or another. And I think when you think about culture, that's a thing that we don't hold people to. It's like people are allowed to kind of have whatever attitude towards the work. And honestly, I might have fired myself if I hired who I was like in the beginning because I was just
That's
so
fair.
against it. And it wasn't, again, I didn't do bad work, but like, was I a positive influence on the other people? Like, I know I made their work better, but did I make them better? Probably
Mm.
not. Like, did I bring some negativity into it? Very good, strong chance I did. So, I think you still have to be able to hold people accountable to that because it does influence others. So, we always push that of, are you leading with your attitude? Are you making people better? Are you, if you're bad mouthing the company the entire time, maybe it's not, it doesn't matter if it's true or not. Is it really what's best for the company?
Yeah.
Is it best for you? Is it best for your team? Because they like this job. Why are you making them not like it with your attitude?
Well, and that's what I was trying to ask you before was like, do you feel like the attitude that you were bringing to your previous positions? I mean, you've been there for 14 years. Do you feel like the attitude that you were bringing into those previous positions bleeds over into your lack of promotion because people saw
Mhm.
they saw what you were bringing, right? Not necessarily the results, but
Yeah.
but your passion and or lack thereof passion for what it was, and
Yeah.
saying like this guy's not going to be the leader for our company.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So that's the one area that I did not do as well in, right? And certainly I think at the time, right, I was younger and when that happened, but that was definitely a thing that I really count it into it. And I think I treat it the same way that I've smacked people down for, in our jobs of like, well, you're saying you'll commit to it if you get this role. Now I'm in. Yeah, for like a month, right? That's about as long as you're probably going to make it before
Sure.
you have that attitude. So yeah, it's definitely one of the areas. What I do think is important though is that you have to that's totally fine. Just articulate that to your people. People seem scared to articulate that to their team of like, you're just kind of a jerk, out there. Like you're not making anyone excited to be here. So why should I put you in a position where you're gonna be able to do that more, right? So I think just being really clear about that uh, would have saved a lot of that because I wouldn't have had an answer to that. Yeah, I'm kind of a jerk, right? But no one actually said that, which would have been refreshing.
So say you hear that, right? Or you have to say it, right? You tell somebody like, I have to say, Jared, like, your work ethic is outstanding. Um, we think that you have potential, but I'm going to be honest, you're kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, does
Yeah.
Jared respond well to that? Or is he
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about?
Right. Yeah. Put it in chat GBT and have it tell you how you should say it to the person. That'll work. So now
Well, and the
of
reason I
course,
ask
everything.
is because, the flip side of that is they go, well, give me an example,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? I'm a jerk. And then what I've gotten in trouble with in the past is I will give somebody an example, but I'll use a situation that I heard from somebody else, right? So and so told me that they had an interaction with you and this and this happened, right?
Yeah.
Well, now I'm taking sides in what the story actually is. Um, and I don't know what their relationship is in the mix of that. And sometimes, as the leader of one of the leaders of the company, you see a different version of people than
Yeah.
everybody else sees. So somebody will come to you and say, um, Philip is a jerk. He's mean to everybody.
Yeah.
He's got a bad attitude. And I go, oh, listen, I don't see it. Like every time I see Philip, he's in a great mood. He says, good morning. He's nice to me. He
Yeah.
always seems polite. He seems energetic. They're like, yeah, well, that's you.
Yeah. 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 I think so. It's being close to your team, so you understand. Obviously, if more people are kind of vibing off of that, that you're going to see it. But I think when you're actually having those conversations with people, um, in the end, again, unless you have super specific cases that you
Yeah.
are aware of, yeah, you can't go accusatory. You have to go questioning, right? So instead, I'm going to frame that. I'm going to ask them a series of questions to understand the situation. They don't need to know what my take is on it or what I heard at that point. I want to know what their take is on it, and then I'm going to challenge them with, okay, so as you handle that and that person didn't respond to it, why do you think they did?
Mm-hmm.
And I can certainly bring in like, this is kind of how they took it, and then I'll always walk that back to, how are your messages being received? Are you so cool, you can communicate these messages, but how are they being received? I had a supervisor I hired, that worked for me at one point. It was all body language. He had an intimidating look to begin with, and he would stand with his arms crossed and talk to people, and he would intimidate people essentially.
Sure.
And so we'd have these conversations like, yeah, I said exactly what you're saying I should say to him. I'm like, dude, like, at one point I looked at a video because we had a spill on something, and like I could see the dude, he's like flailing his arms, like everything, his body's going, and I'm like, dude, what are you're ripping that guy apart. He's like, no, we were just talking about whatever. I'm like, learn your body language, man. Like you can't talk to people like that. Your body language is sending a different message than what your words are. And so the
Yes.
same words from me and him are perceived very, very differently. You have to be really careful about that with, I don't shy away from the idea that messages are received very differently based on race or gender or things like that. Like that is true. Like something is just going to be received very differently from two different people saying the same words, even the same way. It's going to be received differently. So trying to figure out, I always push people to that then of, okay, what was your message? How is it received? And then how could you have made it better received in a way that, didn't offend everyone, doesn't tick everyone off? Because it's, people get stuck on that. Well, I'm right.
No.
Cool. That's, if you can't get everyone else on board with that, that doesn't matter. It's not important that you're right, because no one else wants to go with you on this journey. So figure out a way to get them all on the same team on it, and then you can be right and you can move forward.
Yeah. I read a thing one time that said, a leader with no followers isn't a leader. Right? It's just a dude by himself.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
I think, my daughter always says, she tells me, or she tells her friends, like, our closed captioning is on. Like, uh, you may be saying one thing, but this is saying something totally else. I can read your closed captioning.
That's good. I like that. I'm gonna
Yeah.
steal that.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
pretty
borrow
cool.
it. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think she coined it, but,
Yeah.
she taught me. So that's good.
Yeah.
Um, I think, clearly, you said some words that like stand out to me before you said worship. And those are words of faith. Right.
Mhm.
And for me, my faith is really important. And when you asked me before, like, where does my leadership style come from? I would like to think a big portion of it comes from my faith, and
Exactly.
and doing the things that my faith calls me to do. Right.
Yeah.
Our youth group says it really well, really simply: love God and love people.
Yeah. That's it.
And I think if you can do your leadership style in a matter that reflects that, and it's hard because not everybody's in that position, right? If you can get in trouble for this, but nobody's listening, so it doesn't matter. If all leaders were Christians and they had a belief in God, it would be way easier, right?
Yeah.
If they actually did what they said they believed.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. And I'm not saying that I think all leaders should be Christians. I'm thinking all people should be Christians. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, for sure.
because it sets the tone, right? It sets the bar.
Yeah.
I want to image Christ as much as possible. I'm not saying that I'm Jesus, but I want to try and live my life in that way because I think he lived an amazing life. And whether you think he was the son of God or not, most people agree that he was a good man and a great teacher and a fantastic leader.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're pouring into your people, if you actually love your people, then you're going to lead them well. You're going to care about them well. You're going to look out for their best interest. You're going to hold people to levels of accountability. You may do it wrong from time to time, but you're still going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that you can, yes, you cannot say, okay, the Bible's your standard to how we work here. Sure. We can't say that. But that
Yeah,
being said, I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about a certain code of values, right? Of how we think people should live, a code of conduct for how they should live their lives in general. We can still instill that in our companies. At least we do get to control our core values. Integrity was our number one core value, and that's honestly, it's the only one I actually care about having up because it encompasses everything, right? If you're living with integrity, then you are treating people with respect. You are doing what you should do when you should do it. You're living differently. So I think you can still build those values as expectations, but that's where, again, you have to be really clear on what those expectations are. And they don't necessarily, you know, I mean, most of my leadership stuff, yeah, is exactly what you said. It's servant leadership. It's scriptural leadership. I
yep,
could probably pull chapter and verse for every one of my pillars of leadership and use that. I could flip it immediately to just fully be that because that's what does work. That's how I've been able to pour into people. And I mean, Rams is here in the chat, is a guy that worked for me before. He's awesome. And he's a guy that we built a ton of trust with, and he's excelled to such high levels, but we poured into each other. He helped me grow, I helped him grow. And again, another guy I take a bullet for because he works super hard and he cares about people. And so
sure.
his team loves him everywhere he goes. They loved him when he worked for me. At the place he's at now, they love him as well. And it's because he cares about the people more than the stuff. So he has a servant leadership style and a servant leader heart, and that shows in their work. So can we still set values and hold people to that? I think we can. I think we just get really weak on that. We try to break things down into very tangible tasks instead of breaking them down into actually how they should work. I
Sure.
think that's the difference in a culture. A lot of people treat a culture like it's the things we do outside of work, right? We have the happy hour, we have, whatever, we have games, ping pong tables, pizza parties. Pizza parties are still great. They get a bad rap. Everybody's ragging on them, but they're still great. But at the end of the day, culture is really how you work. It's not the things outside of it. It's the contract that we have between each other of how we're going to do our work and how we're going to treat each other in a place. So if you do that well, then I think you can still have, at least people living to the expectations that we're trying to set.
Yeah. And I think to your point, right? Like doing the games, the fun stuff, the parties at the end of the month, like all those things, we do that, right?
Mhm.
And you can do that too. But if you're doing that and the whole time you're doing it, you're going, well, they should be back to work by now. This
Yeah.
is taking longer than it needs to be. We're doing this again. Come on. Why do we keep doing this?
Right.
Your heart's not in it. You saw a thing on LinkedIn that somebody said that you should do these events for your team.
Yeah.
You actually have to care about the people to want to do the thing for the people and have them enjoy being at work, which sounds like a weird thing. But we are at work way more than we're at home. So if you're not enjoying being at work, you should find a new place to work. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a reality, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, life is too short to stay in a spot that you're that miserable and you feel like you can't make any sort of change or a difference. Um, I have a whole stack on my bench over there of the book Servant Leadership. The
Mm.
Servant, I think. Yeah, The Servant. Um, Greg Eidenberger told me a long time ago that everybody in the company that he worked for, Paragon D&E in Grand Rapids, everybody that wanted to be in a leadership position had to read that book. It was mandatory reading. And he told me that he's read it multiple times in his life. And every time he read it, he read new things in it, based on the stage he was, whether he was a single guy or a new parent, a grandfather, a boss, like whatever that was, it hit him differently every time he read it.
Yeah.
Um, it's a great book. Uh, and I think so many people, like you and I were talking a little bit offline, like people want to be a leader. Most people want to be a leader, or at least thought of as a leader.
Mhm.
And sometimes they have to think of themselves in that way first, uh, and start walking the walk without knowing what that looks like, and find a
Yeah.
spot to do that. And start looking at, how would I want this situation handled for me, and then do those things, right? Do unto others as you want others do to you. There's so many
Yep.
different things in regards to those. When you mentioned your pillars of leadership, what does that look like?
Yeah. So, I've got like an A through E thing. But yeah, first one is really around aligning goals. So again, figuring out what do people care about, what actually excites them so that we can try to figure out, first off, are they in alignment with the company at all? I mean, you
Sure.
may find out from those kinds of meetings of like, we just shouldn't work together. It doesn't mean like I need to walk them out that minute, but dude, like you're not gonna like this, and that's fine. So let's start finding something. Work here till then. Be still a good team member. But we want you to be able to align with those. Or if you can keep adding skills while you work here, great. I mean, I've got guys that they want to be in IT. Okay, I mean, maybe you'll be able to do that here, maybe you won't, but go ahead, go get your degree. I've given them, the same college I went to. Here you go. We got you set up with that. Start growing those. If you end up staying here, find that this is a great life, then go for it. Stay here. But, I'm not going to slow them down on their growth towards their goals if if just because they don't align with the last thing that we want, right? That they don't want what I want as the owner of a company or as a high ranking person in the company.
Yep.
Second one is around build trust, right? So I think is the other thing that we don't always do well is really building trust with the employees. It's a lot more that managerial style and not leadership style, right? It's
Yep.
instead of telling them the things to do, instead of actually being able to work beside them. I think it's the Franklin Covey group. They talk about the first job of a leader is to inspire trust. Second job of a leader is to extend trust. So yeah, so how are you actually inspiring trust from your people and then delegating things out to them so they actually trust you more because they see that you trust them more, and it's a relationship that builds on itself. And again, you lose it on this trust side, good luck to you. You'll never have your
Right.
people willing to do anything for you.
Right.
Third, as we talked about, is around clarifying expectations. So um, it's something where you need to be clear daily, and as you find that people are going off track, great, get with them and figure out what they don't understand, correct that, give them whatever resource they need in order to correct that, be
Yep.
clear about it, and then keep following up so they understand. And the worst thing you can possibly do is fire someone and find out like they didn't know they were doing a bad job. Like I've had that before, and I've like stopped it mid meeting because this person doesn't know. You didn't tell them. You didn't tell them how they failed. So how did you expect them to live to that expectation? They don't get what it was. So
Right.
we failed them, right? Next, around developing people, again, this kind of is the next extension. So how are you developing your team? How are you growing those skills that again should help to support those goals that they aligned with? If you do that aligned goals one right, you're actually going to build a plan for expectations they're going to set. You're actually going to create accountability um, out of that because they're going to agree to these things that they want to get to that next level. Great. Here's the 5 things that I expect from the person in that. So can you meet these? And
Right.
then, oh, great. Now can we develop them in it? So we can develop people. And the final one, really just the foundation for everything, is engage daily. This is where we talk about intentionality. I mean, I think that is actually, this sounds stupid because it's just like, yeah, engage with your people daily. But I can't believe how many people don't do this. There's stages of my career where things are getting hard, stuff's bad out there on the floor, and you hide in your office. If you're a leader that's rarely out of their office, then I guarantee that your team is not being led by you, right? You're hiding. So engaging with people daily, getting out there. A lot of leadership is being willing to be uncomfortable. If you're not okay with just being uncomfortable sometimes, of feeling like, yep, I'm the bad guy, or I'm not, but this person thinks I am, and so they hate me for it. If you're not okay with having that happen, you're not going to thrive in leadership, because the example I use is that leadership is a lot like taking your kids to Disneyland, but not
Mm.
like in a good way. It's the idea of, like, you take them to Disney and you're doing this for them because you want them to have this amazing experience. It's going to be magical. And then you take them, and then they end up in these long lines, and they're hot, and they're hungry and thirsty, and they hate you for it for some reason. Like, you built the park out, you put their favorite rides miles away from each other, and they just hate you for it. And it's this thing that you spent a bunch of money on, a bunch of energy on, that you thought was for them, they despise you for. That's so draining as a leader. But you still have to get back out there, engage with them every day, continue to build trust, continue to develop people, and just continue with it. So really around engaging daily, being intentional. If you're not intentional with it, people will feel it, and they'll know that you're not really leading them.
Yeah. Do you have an issue with, because I feel this sometimes. Sometimes as a leader in the company, you've got your own tasks, things that you're supposed to do, right? You have your own to-do list. I am terrible at having a to-do list, because I just find that whenever I start that to-do list, I don't have enough time to cross things off of it. I just keep adding to it, and it stresses me out more. And so I'm
Yep.
really not good with that. And sometimes I feel like I want to just, to your point, engage with people and what's going on, but I also want to allow them to do their jobs and then get done to the things that I need to get done. When you have an organization of 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 people, how do you engage daily with those people? Or at that point, are you expecting your second in commands to be doing some of that engagement? But as the overall leader, you have to engage too. So what does that look like to you?
Yeah, it's a hard balance on it, right? And I think it does look different. I mean, if you're in a 500 person company and the CEO comes walking the floor, people are, they're
They're
if they
freaked
come out
out.
there an hour a day, yeah, they freak out. They panic sometimes, right? Depending on how you've treated people in the past. If you haven't been out there in a year and you pop out, yeah, it's mass hysteria. But if you're out there frequently, and here I'll speak to it as my previous CEO was amazing at this. He basically, he would block, like, every 2 hours. He was just going to go walk the floor, and
Mm,
he was going to speak to people on each line. Now, that was a small plant at the time. But he was just intentional about being seen out there at the very least. Something would happen. There's something real bad going on. He'd help, right? So he actually get in there. He's gonna, you hit leadership. Unfortunately, is you got to bleed for your people sometimes. So
yes.
yeah. So are you engaging with them? Are you getting out there? Are you getting beside them and actually working shoulder to shoulder? So yeah, I think the big thing, and this is, again, I'm with you on the to do list. Most of my days are just spent reprioritizing my to-do list each morning.
Yes.
I just redo that, and I don't actually do anything, right? It's basically like Netflix scrolling is what I do with my to-do list. But yeah, I think we have to be able to block that time in. So actually having intentional times of, hey, I am going to do this. Are you going to be able to talk to everybody each day on it? No, you're not. That's okay. They don't, honestly, most people don't expect that. But it's a question of, cool, can I talk to 3 people today? Can I
Mhm.
influence 3 people and check in with them? Can I be seen? Can I make a comment, a smile, a wave? Honestly, depending what position you are in a company, that's huge, because
Right.
a lot of companies, they won't do that. They just scowl at everybody as they walk through, and that's it. So I think as you go higher, it takes less for the individuals down low. But yeah, you're right. I mean, things do need to be, each person's leader should be the one. It's basically an expanding circle. So
Right.
the people that's their direct supervisor, of course, a lot of touch points, they should be reaching out a lot more, and they should be able to focus on those people and pour into them more deeply. You go up a level, now it's okay, getting some more conversations in, maybe asking them some questions. You go up another couple levels, and then maybe it's, yeah, we're just I'm present. They see that I'm here, I'm working, I'm also on the floor. It's not just I've got these people out there working their butts off, and I go kick it in my office. And so just being more present. So, you know, I think you just kind of have to expand that out from closest to the employee to furthest away as to how much time you can really put into it.
Yeah, I love that idea of blocking out that time, like
Yeah.
setting an alarm almost to
Mhm.
remind yourself to go do those things. Because sometimes, I mean, honestly, sometimes there's days that I struggle with that. You get caught up in your day and the thing that you're in, and you forget to go walk around or do that stuff. And
Yeah.
the other thing that I don't want to be perceived as is hovering, right?
Hmm.
Just going out there and making sure that people are working,
Yeah.
because that to me goes back and defeats B of building trust. And like, why are you out here again? I'm just saying hi, right? Like,
Yeah. Just standing over you creepily. It's fine.
I'm
It's
just
fine.
making sure that you're working like you're supposed to
Right.
be. Like, I don't want to be that guy. And
Yeah.
people have accused me here sometimes of not coming out often enough to make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And my answer is like, I trust everybody here to do what they're
Yeah.
supposed to be doing. I see the work getting done. I see that when we need machines made, the machines are getting made. I don't feel like I need to do that. Uh,
Yeah.
so I'm not going to, right? Like, but there are other people that and it's not even like checking up on, but like making sure that, to your point, things are okay and you're engaging in a way that makes sense to your organization and your team. And you have to know your team is what it boils down to, right?
Yeah, you're not going to make everybody happy, right? At the end of the day,
No.
every like we said, as people's goals are different, even just the way they want to be communicated with and everything about it is different for every person. So the amount of attention that they want, but I think if you're communicating what you're doing and why, I think that's also just a big thing. If you can make sure that you're being really clear about it, if you are feeling that dissension, I've had to just take meetings and like, hey, this is what we're doing and why, because right now yeah, I'm not going to be out there as often because we're trying to, we're going with this acquisition. It's taking up all our time, whatever it is. If you're clear with people and transparency is everything. That is one thing I will say
Yeah.
that we did. I mean, the Israeli guys, like they share more than they should. They'll share everything with competitors, everything. Like there's no hiding anything. But and even that, people are still like, well, you got to be hiding something because they're hurt. They got PTSD from the last place they worked.
Sure.
They're
Sure.
probably trying to hide it. So
Sure.
yeah, you're not going to make them all happy, but the more transparent you can be, the better chance you have that people are going to understand your intentions and hopefully give you the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. I, I'll share this story when it comes to that. We've got some engineers. They're good guys. They're really good at what they do, and they're in a separate room. And most days they have their door closed. So it's the two guys in the room. They have the door closed for whatever reason. Like the shop is a little bit louder.
Yeah.
They have their own music on. They don't want the distractions, whatever that looks like. And so, I was getting in the morning and their door is closed, and I feel like, okay, they want to be left alone. Like in my brain, I'm doing them a favor by leaving them alone. And we ended up having a conversation, and I said, "Hey, are we good?" And they're like, "I don't know, are we?" And I was like, "I mean, I thought we were good. Like, I got no beef. Do you guys have beef?" And they're
Right.
like, "Well, we hear you say good morning to everybody, but you never come in here and say good morning." I was like, "Your door is closed. Like, I feel
Right.
like you want to be left alone because the door is closed. If the door is
It's a
open,
universal
I know you want
symbol
to
for
come
go
in."
away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I, now that I know that, I will come in and I'll say good morning.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, right? I said, if I have a problem with you, I promise you'll know.
Yeah.
We will have a conversation about that, but please don't read into the thing, or at least just ask me. Like, I feel like I'm a friendly person. Ask me, like, are we good?
Yeah.
And I will tell you the truth. I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
We'll have a conversation about what that looks like. But I thought I was doing what they wanted by
Yeah.
not opening the door. That's
Yeah. Yeah. And that's become big because they expect you to be a mind reader, unfortunately. And I've learned over time to over communicate the crap out of things
yeah.
because you know they they don't give you the benefit of the doubt. We have to be willing to do that ourselves and giving them the benefit of the doubt, but people won't always give you that. So the more you can, over communicate, even when it feels weird, they don't notice. I mean, unless you're really railing on one topic, but overall people need it, and they like I said, it makes it a little bit more transparent, builds a little bit more trust. But yeah, you got to get ahead of everything, unfortunately.
And that's one of the things that I know about myself that I have to continuously be better at. Like, you know, you and I were talking about intention earlier. You know, there was a time where we had a trade show coming up, and one of the guys has 2 young kids at home, and he values his time off. And did I think he would have been very valuable at the show? I did. But I also knew that his time was really valuable to him, and ask him to leave the state and travel for 3, 4, 5 days was going to put added stress on him that I didn't think he needed to have. And I also knew that if I asked him, he would go.
Yeah.
And so I didn't ask.
Yeah.
And then he felt like I was overseeing him, or not overseeing him, but like looking past him, overlooking him. And I realized again, that was my fault. Like, I didn't communicate all the things that were in my brain, and my brain was saying, like, take care of this guy. Don't ask him to do this because he will feel pressured to do it. And you'll never know that he felt pressured, but he is going to feel pressured. Just don't even bring it up. That was my brain. Yeah. But the reality was he wanted to be invited.
Yeah. Yeah. He wanted to be asked, if nothing else, right? I don't want to do it, but I want you to ask. Yeah.
And I don't fault him, because I feel like I would want the same thing.
Right.
So I think that's one of the biggest things about leadership, is being able to take the feedback that you get from people and learn and grow from it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's where, you know, surveying your people, I think some surveys work if you use them, if you use the data and you interpret it well. You know, we used to do a full management survey every year where they can just, you know, crap all over us, and we would do it every year and track how much they liked or disliked us each year. And you know, it was, and we made decisions off of it, and actually checked in on that to actually address things if we had some rougher scores. So I always thought our scores were pretty good, but you know, HR wants them to be all flawless, right? But it's normally not the case.
Is there a resource to get questionnaires like that?
I don't have anything directly right now, but you know, we used to just make our own on like SurveyMonkey, throw 10 questions on it, and then you can make it, you know, pretty much anonymous. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of I mean, even just Google Docs, you can kind of at least make a survey. If you want super anonymous, then sometimes you got to take some other steps. But yeah, I mean, just by, if you ask the right questions, they need to be wise questions, and they need to be they need to be taken with a grain of salt, because you're always going to get that one person that gives you all perfect and that one person that gives you all zeros, you know, and like that'd be difficult for those both things to both be true. So, you know, you have to kind of understand it a little bit and try to actually track what story is telling. Because oddly enough, the one that puts all zeros, they're never going to leave any comments. So you're like, okay, that's super useless information. If other than someone's really angry, that's what we know, guys. Let's go address that. So, but man, you even find out that people, you know, sometimes people are unhappy. They don't even know why, right? It's just, I truly think it's another hurdle for us in manufacturing, because we haven't invested in culture, that you have people that, again, they're coming into it with that us versus them mentality, because cultures are bad and it drove people out. We've treated people in those entry level positions like they're expendable. And so now they walk into the place feeling expendable, and they act very differently. So yeah, like breaking that down, like we've had that where we've done like exit interviews, and it's like they're like, I'm not supposed to know why I'm unhappy. You're the manager. You should know. I was like, it's like, this is insane. We kept asking. So like, just what's one thing we could have done differently? I told you, I'm not the manager. You are. You're supposed to know. I'm like, this is nuts. But it's just, you know, people are unhappy, and sometimes they don't know why. So I think it's having a lot of conversations, again, that are uncomfortable to kind of get to those. So surveys should only really act to open more conversation.
Sometimes I feel people just want to be upset.
Absolutely.
I mean, I mean, let's be honest, we have plenty of bitter, angry people in this world, and some of them just want to be bitter and angry, and they want to blame you for their unhappiness, no matter what you do. And that's not fair either, right? Like,
Yeah.
and some people need to work other places. That's a reality. And, they have to figure out what their stuff is. Like, as the manager or as the leader of that department, like, my job's not to make you happy all the time. My job is to make you better at your job and make us a better company. I hope that you enjoy the process, and I'm not going to be a complete jerk to you, but
Right.
like, you have to understand the purpose of what that is, right? Like, even when you love somebody, your job is not to make them happy every moment of every day. That's
Yeah.
impossible,
Right.
because
Yeah. I
then you're
mean,
going
the
to make
ideal is
somebody
that
else
you build
upset.
it. Yeah. Yeah. You kind of have to build it right to where that's why I say the earlier you can align goals, like
Yeah.
the better that stuff goes.
No, I love
Because
that.
I want to get rid of people that not get rid of. I want to help people move to something else that they're actually going to enjoy, and it's still going to kind of work with what we want to do and what we accomplish. And if it's not, like, it's fine. Like, everybody doesn't want to have to do this. Again, I didn't want to have to do it, so I understand. But let's try to do it amicably and move together.
No, I love it. I want to do some 5 questions, and then we'll move on.
Sure, why not?
All right, we got our fun music now. Because why not? All right, question number 1. If you could make one rule that everyone had to follow, what would that rule be?
Just don't be a jerk. Can you just not be a jerk? That'd be great. That's it. It's that simple. We're most of the way there, guys. Just don't be a jerk.
It seems like a really simple rule.
It does, but doesn't seem to be the case. But yeah, just don't be a jerk.
I agree. I think it's a great rule. So if you're watching this, don't be a jerk. That's our rule for you today. Question number 2. What is the one thing that you are superstitious about?
Thing I'm superstitious about. If you walk on the production floor at the end of the day, something will break at that time, and you will never go home. That's something I came to find out. I have to fake it out of I'm looking on the floor now, but I'll come back in a minute, and then gotta tell the machines I'll be back, so don't break now. And then you run from that building, Tony.
I like that. I like that. Question number 3. If you swapped genders for one day, how would you spend your time?
I don't know. I mean, it's a great question. I'd like to have a door held for me sometime. That'd be nice. People don't hold doors for people that look like me. They just don't. So maybe
you do look like an intimidating guy. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's what we go for. So, no, I'm a sweetheart, but someone could hold the door, and I could feel pretty. It'd be great.
I could feel pretty. I like that. Isn't it amazing when you hold the door for people and they walk through like you're supposed to do that? There's no thank you. There's no recognition. There's no anything. It's just of course you held the door. I mean, I'm not saying I need you to bow down to me, but a simple thank you or good day or hello would be appreciated.
Taste. There you go.
I don't think it's too much. Yep. I think that goes back to don't be a jerk.
Yeah, that would work. I think so.
Question number 4. If animals could talk, what would be the rudest and why?
Oh my. So it's got to be hyenas, right? Because they already have that laughing thing. And think about it, right? They're going to be like that guy that every word he says, he cracks up like it's the funniest thing that he ever said in his life. Even though everyone's like, that doesn't make sense. And they're just busting up. I think that's what hyenas would be. It's just get away from me. All right. Come on, Steve. It's not it'd be the way.
I like it.
Yeah.
And the last one. How many kindergarten kids could you take in a fight before you were outnumbered?
I could actually probably test something similar to this right now. I've got 7 kids, so I could probably I could test this within reason. So, it's the most of them I've been able to take before they've overcome me. Do they fight dirty, Tony? How dirty are they fighting?
I mean, they're kindergarten kids. They could be biting. They could be pulling hair. They could be doing whatever. I mean, they have no rules when it comes to fighting. It's survival of the fittest.
Can I fight dirty? How about that?
I'm thinking this is life or death. I'm thinking like, you got a pack of wild kindergartners coming at you.
And just hammer toss them, just swing and just launch them to the schoolyard. You know what? I think I've got 7 kids, so I'm going to say 7, so that way I can make them think that I still think I could take them if they step to me. So
I like that. Yeah. I asked my daughter this question the other day just for giggles, and she was like, I think I could take a couple. She's like, I think, you grab one and you start swinging them around and use it as a weapon, and you got a chance.
Yeah.
But I also know. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to change. Go ahead. You also know what?
Working with the kids at Awana, sometimes like you're running around the gym and one of them will grab your leg and they slow you down, and then another one will grab your leg and then they're like hanging on you. And before you know it, you're falling over. The difference is I'm not going to haul off and punch one of them to get them away, because this is not a life or death situation. I'm talking like, Damien and Pet Cemetery. Like if those kids are coming at you, there is no amount of warm and fuzzies to protect those kids.
But you're right. If they're coordinated, it changes the whole game.
Yes.
If they're coordinated, it's a whole different thing. But what let's merge a couple questions here. What's the biggest animal that you think you could take? Right, as a man, we all have that level of like what size cat, or and we're talking hand to hand here. Okay.
Yeah.
What could it be? Cat level up to bear. Like what could you handle, Tony?
Are we saying no weapons? Just weapons, hand to hand combat.
Hand to hand combat. What's the biggest one you could take down?
Oh man. I feel like animals are very deceiving. We used to have a dog. He was a shepherd husky mix, and my dad backed into him with the pickup truck, and the dog just like looked at him like, "What are you doing?" Like, I'm standing here. Like, but the dog wasn't huge. You know what I'm saying? Like, animals have a different level of physicality than we do.
Your adrenaline like holds them till a deer can get hit by a car and then run like 200 yards before he decides to drop.
Yeah, where we would be kind of splattered. It's I think
could you take a bobcat? Could you take a cougar?
Are we talking mammals?
I think we got to go mammals.
Mammals.
I mean, we're at a disadvantage if we're in the water or something. I think that's a strange thing. So
yeah, I think something in between, maybe like a coyote.
Coyote, okay.
Yeah,
and I think I'd fight a coyote. I think that would actually be a worthwhile venture too. I don't know, something about them. They rub me the wrong way, so it's fair. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. We used to have a guy that worked for us that said he thought he could fight a bear. Yeah. And I don't believe that.
Yeah. No, there's some days I felt like that. And then you like watch anything with a bear in it and you're like, oh yeah, there's no way. It's a man killing machine.
Or you don't realize how strong a chimp is until you read about Charla Nash and the chimp ripping her face off and all those things. Like, it looks like a playful, harmless little monkey.
Yeah. Yeah. Those things are killers as well.
But it's not. So I don't have a chimp. I don't have any pets, to be honest with you, because they all freak me out to some degree. I think you have a dog. Like when we had that dog, he was great, right? And we would wrestle and fight, and it was so much fun. But he would like grab your arm with his teeth and just kind of like gnaw, a little bit.
Yeah.
And he's thinking like, I could take your arm. Like, I crunch bones. Like, you give me bones to eat and you just put your arm in my mouth. Like, it's a thing.
Yeah, I agree.
It's definitely a thing. Well, thanks for playing 5 questions. That's always fun.
Yeah. It's a good time.
We always end our show with a prayer. So before we do that, do you have any prayer requests?
Nothing real specific right now. Again, as I'm starting to do this business and ramp it up, that I'll continue to do with integrity. And I said I've been meeting a lot of guys that are Christian guys on here. I felt more challenged to make my faith more present. And if I'm going to do a business, this is the time, right? I should be representing that more than often I've let myself when I was at work in the past. So so being intentional about that and living life with integrity.
Okay. Uh, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you if they want to talk to you about everything that we've talked about, or have you come in and do a leadership session
Mhm.
for their company?
Yeah, so you can go to manufacturingleadership.com. Real simple, real on the nose there, but manufacturingleadership.com. You can catch me on LinkedIn and just shoot me a message. There's an intake form on the manufacturing leadership. So if you're interested in coaching, community, or the courses, I'm going to be launching a course this summer. There'll be like a 6-week course, and then I'm actually gonna just for the launch, I'm gonna actually pair it with 3 free months of one-on-one coaching. So that's where we'll talk a couple times a month, in addition to you being in the community, weekly calls, everything. So that'll be real inexpensive, and it gets you like 4.5 months essentially of coaching kind of through that entire time. So if you really want to jumpstart your people, I think that's a good way to go. And again, we're going to start up the community again in June is when that'll start up. So trying to build that as big as we can, and let's just support each other and build a network for leadership in manufacturing.
That sounds like a good plan. I can't believe manufacturingleadership.com was available.
So I watched it for a while. It was more expensive at one point, but finally dipped down into my price range, which was not high at all. I was shocked too. I snatched it up. So
Well, good
yeah,
for you. Good
yeah.
for you. That's awesome. I mean,
It's a
it's
lot to
great.
type
Like,
though.
Benjamin King, that's important. He got the point. Benjamin, I'm not even sure exactly what that comment is about, but hey, thanks for being here and watching. I don't know if that's about fighting a cougar or kindergartners or leadership.
He's on board with it. Yeah,
Yeah. But
take them all.
whatever it was, you spoke truth. So Benjamin is happy with that fact. I'm going to pray, and then we'll get out of here and we can go about our day, and we can go out and lead well. How about that?
It's good. Let's do it.
Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for Jared. Thank you for his passion for leading and for leading well, his passion for people and making sure that people are treated well and loved well and cared for well. We just pray that you would bless his business, that you would bless the people that he gets to work with, and that you would allow people to see a purpose in becoming better leaders, not for themselves, but so that you would receive the glory, and help us to lead well in a way that reflects you and the way that you love us and the way that you sacrifice for us and the things that you do. You are the perfect example of what leadership should be, and all leaders should look to you. All people should look to you. And so we just thank you for this time. We thank you for the blessing that it has been. And we ask you to watch over us as we go, keep us safe, keep us healthy, and most importantly, keep us trusting you. We love you. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Jared, thank you, my friend, for joining us. I really appreciate the conversation. I love these talks about leadership and what that looks like. And like I just said, I appreciate that you see an area where it's lacking and that you want to step into that and make it better, because we need more leaders in life, whether that's at work or at home or in our community. Everybody has an opportunity to lead and have influence over others. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for talking with me. It's a good talk.
All right, buddy. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks. Well, everybody, thank you for listening. That was Jared. Jared, like he said, you can go to manufacturingleadership.com and get more information from him. He is all over LinkedIn as well. Real easy to get a hold of. I want to thank everybody for listening and joining and being part of the show today. I would ask that if you found any enjoyment at all of the show, please pass it on to somebody, right? Like the show. Subscribe to the show, get some notifications, whether that's on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook or wherever that is. Our purpose is to continue to grow leaders and grow manufacturing as a whole, and specifically U.S. manufacturing. There are a lot of people that think that manufacturing doesn't matter anymore. You're wrong. It matters for so many reasons. It matters because it does provide good jobs for people. It does provide people a good living. It does help our national security. It does make us more reliant on ourselves as a company. All of those things matter, right? Help us to make a difference by following manufacturing and supporting it and getting involved wherever you can. On behalf of myself and Jared, I want to thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. Take care and God bless.